Welcome back to Too Blessed. I know I haven't made a video in a little while. I actually got pretty sick a couple weeks ago, and it lasted for quite a while. And then last week we were busy getting ready for our big vow renewal. So that is done. I am working on getting some video and some pictures of that, but it's probably going to take a little bit before I have that ready. So I thought I would make a video today since we just celebrated our anniversary, and I thought I would tell you the story of how my husband and I met, because a lot of people don't really know all the details of our story. So my husband and I met. We've been married for 5 years. So we met about 6 years ago, and we met online. And that's the part that a lot of people don't really know. I was living in Iowa, and my husband lived here in Tennessee. And we both were in our 30s, and we just hadn't ever met the right person, you know. I'm going to kind of tell this, of course, from my point of view mostly. And I had a few opportunities where I had met, you know, different men. I had a couple of occasions where I would have like one date with someone and then just never hear from them again. I did have one relationship that was a little bit longer. As kind of time went on, you know, there weren't a lot of men my age around that were single. You know, we would go to church and things like that, and there just really weren't any. So one day my mom came to me with the thought that maybe I should try online dating, and I kind of thought she was a little crazy. I'll be honest. Yeah, I had kind of thought about it before, but to me, like, it wasn't a thing that like Christians necessarily did. So I thought, you know, well, if I go on some online dating site, I'm not going to find a Christian man, which is what I was looking for, you know, someone who believed the same way that I did. So I just thought I would be kind of like setting myself up for a lot of disappointment. And you know, she kind of kept talking about it, and I kept thinking about it, and finally I thought, you know, I'll just give it a try. I guess it won't hurt anything. I'll try it and just see what happens. And so I decided, I kind of set a deadline. I decided I would try it for 3 months, and after that would be it. You know, I wasn't going to do it anymore. And so I signed up for the one eHarmony, because I had heard a lot about it. And actually the church that we were attending at that time, there was another lady there who had met her husband on eHarmony. And so I thought, well, you know, here's somebody I actually know that really did it and it worked. So I thought I would, you know, use the same one that she had used. And so I signed up for eHarmony. I signed up for 3 months, and what they do is, of course, on eHarmony, you answer a lot of questions about yourself. And that was what I kind of liked about that one too, is a lot of the online dating sites were kind of based on, you would see a picture of someone and you would decide if you wanted to date them just based on what they look like. And I didn't like that idea. So with eHarmony, you went through and you answered these questions, and I mean, there were a lot of questions. You answered a lot of questions about yourself, about the things that are important to you, and they would try to match you up with someone based on the way that they had answered the questions, you know, if you were kind of like compatible in that way. So I did that, and then it was there was a time of just waiting, because they don't just match you up with everybody that you might be compatible with right away. They'll send you a few matches, and then in a day or two, they'll send you a few more matches, so you kind of don't get overwhelmed all at once. So I would go on there every day and I would look at the new matches, and there really for quite a while there was just nothing. Excuse me. Because I would see, you know, I would read these profiles and they would say I'm a Christian, and then a little bit later they would talk about how their favorite thing to do was go out and party and drink and smoke and, you know, do all these things that were things that I didn't agree with. So, you know, at first I was kind of like, yeah, see, I was right. This is just disappointing. None of these guys are what I'm looking for. And a little bit of time went by, and there just really wasn't anything. I thought, well, I guess I was right. You know, there's not really going to be any decent guys on here that are what I'm looking for. And so finally, I think it may have been about 2 months into it, when I finally saw another profile come up, and it caught my attention at first because he was from Tennessee, and at the time, well, I still do, but I had a sister that lived in Tennessee, and so it just kind of, you know, it kind of caught my attention, being a familiar place. And then I read his profile, and it was really amazing because he put right out on his profile exactly what he was looking for. And he said he was a Christian. He said he was a Baptist, which is what I am. He said that he was looking for a wife, and he wanted a wife who would stay at home, take care of the home, and raise children and homeschool children. And the more I read of his profile, it was exactly what I wanted. You know, everything he said was exactly what I agreed with. And so, of course, that really got my attention too. And so I believe the way it happened is on eHarmony, when you see a profile of someone and you're kind of interested in them, you can send them, I can't remember exactly what they called it, but basically you just kind of send them sort of like a notification saying, I saw your profile. And so I believe I contacted him first. Like, I didn't send him a message, but I just sort of sent him that notification like, hey, I saw your profile. And just kind of waited, and, you know, just to see if he was interested or, you know, anything like that. Because actually, before that, there had been another guy that I saw that I thought I might be interested in, and I had sent him a notification like that and never got any response from him. So I don't know if maybe he wasn't even on there anymore or what. So, you know, so I didn't really know. So I just kind of waited, and it's hard to remember all the details. And so I don't remember if he sent me a message then or what exactly happened, but we did end up sending some messages back and forth through eHarmony, because they have you kind of contact that way first. And so we sent a few messages back and forth, just kind of like, you know, hey, my name is Amy and I live in Iowa, and, you know, just that basic information. And we did that for a little bit. And then I do remember that we were communicating in July, because our church had Vacation Bible School in July. And we weren't communicating every day, but I remember, like, when we would go to Vacation Bible School, I would like hurry home and I would check to see if I'd gotten any messages from him. And sometimes it would be like maybe a week, you know, I would get a message, and then maybe a week would go by or something like that. And, you know, we weren't having serious discussions or anything like that. It was just real, general, kind of communications. And then towards the end of the summer, I think in August, yes, because I had originally signed up for eHarmony in June. So I had it for June, July, and August. And so in August, we were still communicating a little bit, and I finally sent him a message and I said, listen, my membership is going to expire soon, and I really don't want to renew it right now. So if you want to keep in touch, here's my email address, and you could go ahead and email me. And so again, I kind of waited a little bit, and I can't remember, I think it took maybe a week or something like that before I got the first email from him. And then I was kind of like, okay, maybe he's really interested. So we started emailing back and forth for a little bit, and just kind of, telling each other a little bit more about ourselves. We would kind of talk about, things that were going on at church and in our daily lives and things like that. And then finally, I think it was maybe September or October. I'm thinking it was probably October, that he sent me an email and he said, hey, would you be interested in talking on the phone and seeing if we can get to know each other a little better that way? And I was really nervous because I don't love talking on the phone, really. If it's someone in my family or something like that, I can talk to them, but I'm not like the type of person to just sit and talk on the phone for hours. So I was a little nervous about how that was going to go, and especially like the first phone call. So I waited to hear from him, because I sent him my number, and I just said, sure, go ahead and call me sometime. And so one evening he called, and I don't remember what I was doing, but for some reason I didn't get the phone call. And so I noticed a little bit later that I had missed a call from him, or that I had missed a call. And when I listened to my voicemail, it was a message from him. And that was actually, it worked out kind of nice, because that way I got to hear his voice and hear what he sounded like without the pressure of like having to think about what I was going to say. So I waited a little bit, kind of like gather myself, and I tried to call him back, but then he missed my call. I found out later, he told me he was in Walmart, and sometimes in Walmart and places like that, you don't get a very good cell phone signal. So I called him back and I left him a message. I just said, hey, it's Amy, sorry I missed you, give me a call sometime. And I kind of figured that maybe he wouldn't call until the next day. And so I was in, I was in my bedroom and I was getting ready for bed, and then my phone actually rang again, and it was him. So we talked, it was a real short, pretty brief conversation. And then, we were like, okay, well, we'll talk again sometime. And I think from that point on, we probably talked to each other almost every single day. And we just started out talking about everything. And during that time, I was starting to go through some of my health problems. We didn't really know what anything was yet, but things were starting to come up. And I also started to realize that something was going on with my eyes around that time. I knew there was some things going on. And the job that I had at the time, I had started in March, but I had started as part-time. And then at some point during the summer, they moved me to full-time. And so I had to wait 30 days for my insurance to start. And so kind of during that initial time when we were getting to know each other, I was waiting for my insurance to kick in so I could start going to the doctor and try to see some things that were going on. And one of the sort of pivotal moments was when I finally went to the eye doctor. And I really, like, I was struggling with my eyesight, but I really thought I just needed glasses. I had glasses before, but I didn't really wear them very much. I pretty much only needed them for distance. So I would wear them like to drive and things like that, but I didn't really wear them all the time. So I thought, well, my eyes are changing. I need, new prescription. I need some new glasses. So I went to the eye doctor, and when she looked at my eyes, she immediately knew that there was a problem. She knew that it was a retinopathy from diabetes. And so she very quickly got me set up with a specialist in Sioux City, and I went to see him. And I think I talked about this a little bit in my video where I talked about being legally blind. But I went to him, and he didn't have a very good bedside manner, and so I left his office really feeling that I was probably going blind, probably completely blind. And I remember the day that I was talking to Steve on the phone, and I felt like I needed to share that with him, because I felt like, of course we hadn't met in person at that point, and we were still early enough in the relationship that I felt like he needed to know what was going on, so that if it was too much for him, he could get out, before we started getting closer. I wanted to sort of give him the opportunity to walk away. And when we had that phone call and I told him what was going on, it didn't bother him, and he didn't really say much about it. And so after that phone call, I wasn't sure if I would hear from him again. I kind of thought, he probably needs some time to process this and let it sink in, and then, maybe I just won't hear from him again. And obviously I did. And as our relationship went on later, I would ask him, I would say, what would you do if I went blind? Like, what would that do to us? And he always said, I would take care of you. And so that was a pretty amazing thing to me, that he wasn't scared away by the things that were going on with me. So anyway, back to us talking on the phone. Like I said, we pretty much then, at that point, we would talk on the phone every day, sometimes for several hours a day. And we didn't really know, we had no immediate plans to meet in person. We didn't know when that would happen. I told him that I had a sister in Tennessee, and we found out that he was only about an hour away from where my sister was. So I said, well, maybe someday I'll get to go visit my sister and we can meet up then. But we just didn't know when that might happen. So finally, it was getting into November at that point, and because his job, the job that he has, that he still has now, he doesn't get vacation time or anything like that. And in fact, a lot of times it's very difficult for him to get any time off. So that was really kind of hindering us from getting to meet. That, he couldn't get time off work, and I couldn't travel by myself because of everything that was going on with me. So in November, he found out that he was going to be furloughed from his job during the week of Thanksgiving. And so he called one day, and we were talking, and he said, so what do you think about meeting in person? And I was like, that would be great, but I don't know when it's going to happen. And he said, well, what if I came up there for Thanksgiving? Do you think that would be okay? And I was like, yes. Of course, I had to clear that with my parents, because I lived with my parents at that time. And this is why I'm always a little hesitant to talk about the fact that we met online, because you always hear so many stories about women getting themselves into bad situations by meeting up with a stranger that they've met online. And, that was that made me a little nervous. Like I felt like we knew each other because we had talked so much, but still, I didn't really know him. But the fact that I lived with my parents, he was coming to meet me at my parents' house with my parents there. It wasn't like I was going somewhere to meet him and do something unsafe. So I just want to make that clear. My parents were there every step of the way. I had their support and they were there. It wasn't like I just went and did this on my own and was meeting up with men, randomly or something like that. We were very cautious and we were very safe about this. So it did work out that he was able to come for Thanksgiving. And so in 2011, on the day before Thanksgiving, we finally met in person for the first time. The first time that we met each other, it was in the parking lot of Walmart because he drove up there, and then my dad and I went to meet him at Walmart, and then he followed us to our house. We figured that would be a little bit easier than just trying to give him directions to our house. So the first meeting was a little awkward because we're both pretty shy when we first meet new people. So it was awkward. It was. And he ended up staying the whole weekend. He went home Monday morning, so we spent that whole weekend together. And when he left, again, we didn't know at what point or when we would see each other again. So we just kind of left it like, okay, see you later, talk to you later, that kind of thing. And then I was going through treatments and things like that. And I had a surgery, the first surgery on one of my eyes scheduled for, I believe it was December 17th, if I remember correctly. And so from Thanksgiving, when he left, we again were talking on the phone. And I think we started talking on the phone more after we met in person. Before that, we would talk for like an hour or two. But after that, there were times that we would be on the phone 3-4 hours. It was no big deal at all. So as it got closer to the time for my surgery, I was very nervous about it. And he wanted to come. He wanted to come and visit again, and he wanted to be there for my surgery. This part always makes me cry. Because that was one of the first times that I was like, wow, he really cares about me, Just the fact that he was willing to come all that distance. It was like a 17-hour drive or something like that. It was very long. And so I thought just the fact that he wanted to come all that way to see me, but then he wanted to be there for my surgery, to support me. And I was really nervous because at that point in my life, I had never had surgery before. And so I was too nervous to have him there for the actual surgery. So what we did is we ended up arranging that he would come the day after my surgery, just because I didn't know how I was going to react and things like that. So I, went through the surgery. He came the day after, and I think he spent about, that was the time he ended up staying through Christmas. So that was quite a while that time. So from like December 18th, and then he ended up staying through Christmas, and he left on New Year's Day. So that was a really long visit, and that was, I think, the time that we really got to know each other the most was on that visit. And by the time he left that time, I was pretty well convinced that he was the one that I was going to marry. And again, when he left that time, I cried. I cried so much when he left because, again, we didn't know when we would see each other again. We just weren't sure. He was going to be going back to work, and we just didn't know. So, trying to kind of speed this up a little bit. So, my sister that lived in Knoxville, she was pregnant, and she was due in January. So, my parents had been talking about when she had the baby that they wanted to make a trip down and see her, of course. And so we kind of thought that when we did that I would get to see Steve again at that time. So we did end up doing that. When Hannah was born, my little niece, we got to come down here and see her, and then we got to come over to where Steve lives, and we got to see his house, which was nice because, you know, if I ended up marrying him, this was going to be where I would live. So it was nice to see it in person. And then we headed back home with my mom and dad. This one was kind of a momentous occasion also because up to that point, we had not said I love you to each other. And I had kind of thought that maybe he would say it that weekend when we saw each other, but he didn't. And so we left on Sunday. We were driving home Sunday afternoon, and then Sunday night we stopped at a hotel in Missouri to spend the night, and then Monday we were going to drive the rest of the way. So Sunday night when we got to the hotel, it was pretty late, and now Steve and I had been talking on the phone almost the entire drive. So when we got to the hotel, I said, hey, I'll call you back in a little bit. Let me get in, get settled, and I'll call you to say goodnight. So it was just a quick stop. So my mom and dad and I were actually just sharing a hotel room, and had the 2 beds. So we were just sharing a room. So there was really like no privacy. So I decided to go in the bathroom and call him to say goodnight. So I was sitting in the hotel bathroom on the edge of the bathtub, and I figured it was just going to be a quick call. So I was like, hey, we made it. We're kind of getting settled in, going to go to sleep. And we just talked for just a minute or two. And we were getting ready to say goodnight. And then he just said, I love you. And I didn't know what he said. So I had to ask him to repeat it. And that was what he said. So I said, I love you too. And so we kind of laugh about it now because it's like, oh, the first time we said I love you, I was sitting in a bathroom. But, like I said, at that point we knew. We both knew that this was the real deal. So, again, and this was towards the end of January that we had been to Tennessee. So we got back home on Monday, and when I talked to him again, he wanted to come back already. I think the very next day, if I remember, he was gonna head out and come up there if that was okay. And I was like, well, yeah, that was okay. That's great. So as we talked, he was asking me, he's like, so do you want to get engaged? And I was like, yeah. So we kind of talked about it, and he was asking me what kind of ring I wanted, and I said, whatever you pick out is going to be perfect. That's what I want. I wanted him to pick it out. I didn't want it to be like, oh, here's the ring I want, go buy it. So that was a lot of pressure on him. He doesn't like having to pick things out for himself, but he did an amazing job. The ring he picked out is gorgeous, and I absolutely love it. Unfortunately, I can't wear it right now because with all my kidney trouble, I am retaining a lot of fluid and my rings don't fit me, which is very sad. But if I can find it, I do have a picture, so I will insert that so you can see what my ring looks like. So like I said, he came back, and when he got there, he went to my dad right away and had a talk with him, and we ended up, there was a little discussion. Not that my parents, I don't know how to explain it, because we were adults. We were both in our 30s, and we could have just gone ahead and done whatever we wanted, but we wanted to have their blessing, of course. And my parents just were a little hesitant because they felt like things had gone really fast, and they did. We met in person in November, and here it was the end of January, and we were wanting to get engaged. And so they just wanted to make sure that we weren't sort of rushing into things. And so we took a couple of days and talked about it, and we actually sought counsel from our pastor. We both met with him and we talked to him, and he felt like, we knew what we were doing. And so we ended up getting engaged on February 1st of 2012. And then, I know this is getting long, so I'm going to kind of cut this a little shorter. So we got engaged February 1st of 2012. And then we didn't really know when we were going to be able to get married, because I had a sister that was getting married in July of 2012 and a brother that was getting married in September of 2012. So that was already a lot of weddings for our family. And so we didn't really know when we were going to be able to get married. We kind of thought we were going to have to put it off until the fall, but we didn't really want to have to wait that long. And so it took a little bit of time trying to figure things out. So we ended up getting married June 9th of 2012. So the timeline was, we met online. And actually, this was funny because I didn't find this out until later, when I went back and looked in my email, and I had the email from when I had first signed up for eHarmony, and I didn't find this out until after we had already set the wedding date. But the day that I had signed up for eHarmony initially was actually June 9th of 2011. And we ended up getting married June 9th of 2012. So I thought that was kind of funny. So we met online in July. We met in person in November. We got engaged in February and married in June. So the whole thing happened within less than a year. So it really was kind of a whirlwind, but there really never was a doubt in my mind that he was the right one. And we've really been incredibly happy, and I can't wait to share the video and the pictures from our vow renewal. And I would like to also share some more of our wedding pictures. I have a CD that one of my sisters made for me that has a slideshow, and I was planning to upload that on our anniversary, and now I can't find it. So when I find that, I'm going to share some more of those pictures, and then of course our vow renewal, we'll be sharing some more of that as soon as we get the videos and the pictures back from that. So thank you for watching. Again, if you are not subscribed, we would love to have you subscribe. We are trying to get some more exciting videos coming up soon, so keep an eye out for that. I just found out today that the $5 Goodwill Challenge is coming up next week, so I've got to go do some shopping this weekend and see what I can find for that. So be looking forward to that. And thanks for watching, and we love having you here. And feel free to comment and share your story with us. We would love to hear it, and I will see you in the next video.